hamsters, cool cats, and kittens. My name's DustyWhy, and I'm joining Chibi and Vertec at the Golden Feather. Come on in, grab a seat, and let's share some tales of adventure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertec, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. Every week, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. And today is the 15th of March, 2025. We're on episode 233, Gathering Ideas. And the traveling bard joining us today is our good friend DustyWhy. Classy fellow, nice and active, super bouncy, and what was it? The unwavering tower of
the untiltable mountain of positivity.
There we go. Untiltable mountain of positivity. That's it. I tried to remember it and just keep it in my noggin, but I couldn't. How are you doing today, Dusty?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you guys having me. I hope you're also doing very well on your end. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a nice day. Vertec and I are planning out some really fun stuff, and it was just kind of nice to relax last night and play some Ashes and then come in and have a conversation with you, I think.
Absolutely. We have a lot of massive changes coming to the game within the next few months between like biome expansions and everything else. So I've actually been working really hard behind the scenes on my end with a couple of videos that are going to be coming out.
Nice.
One that's going to be covering all of the changes in March, and then the biome expansions past that, getting ready for phase 3. So it is like, I actually tweeted about this yesterday, but I usually in my videos, because as you guys know, I can yap for hours, which is probably why you have me here.
You're a certified yapper.
Exactly.
Yeah, certified yappers. Everybody needs them. Everybody needs them around.
And so for most of my videos, like I just come up with the idea in my head and I'm like, all right, we're cooking. And I just send it to my editor and I go, cut out whatever you don't need, whatever's hubbub and hullabaloo, just get rid of it and then make a video with it. And this is the first time that I have had to sit down at my computer for multiple days, gather information from multiple sources. Huge shout out to Jamie Chaos for compiling all of the lists of all of the interview notes on the subreddit, because that is huge for what I've been trying to do. I've compiled all of those. I spent like 3 days writing this 6-page long script for the video. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most information that I have ever put into a single video. So I'm more excited for these next few months of Ashes development than I have been for pretty much anything in my adult life, which I don't really know if that's a good thing for Ashes or a bad thing for me, but it exists regardless and I'm here for it.
Fantastic,
nice.
Fantastic.
And for those of you who might not know what TGFTavern is all about, we are a community-centric podcast that has been running for at least 5 or 6 years at this point, and we are very conversational. We like to hear your thoughts and your opinions on things. We grab information from the community. We talk about facts, just in case somebody ends up misunderstanding how something works. And Dusty was just informing us some really interesting facts about Sand Mommy in the desert. And so we do it in a very fun, chill, tavern conversationally kind of way.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure Ashes wasn't your first bit of content that you did. So out of curiosity, what got you into content creation to begin with at all? And then after that, what caught your attention about Ashes? I mean, do you want to steer that direction?
Definitely. Yeah. That is a journey. So I have been playing video games in general my entire life. I grew up basically video games, sports, and lying to my parents, telling them I didn't have homework after school, and eventually getting in trouble for not doing my homework. So
as one does, in both cases.
Exactly. So I have 2 older brothers, 8 and 10 years older than I am. So when I was 4 years old, I got into Diablo 2 as my first game that I ever played, and results in what you see here. So when I was 8 years old, I started playing WoW when WoW launched. I was raid leading and main tanking before I was 11 and just kind of like grew into gaming from there. When I started playing Dota 2 after WoW, it was kind of like through high school and early college. I actually really got into the competitive side, some tournaments, more on the amateur side, but I also got into casting tournaments. And I would watch these big Dota events and I would see these professional casters and I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like they're really fun to listen to. And so I was like, well, maybe I start streaming and I'll try to kind of bring that energy while I'm playing the game too. And so Dota, I started kind of streaming casually to my group of friends. I had a team that we played with. It was a bunch of amateur players. We were all just friends. And so they would hang out and we would scrim other teams. I would watch tournaments in pro player POVs and I would do casts of what I was thinking. And I got my original affiliate through there. And then I kind of bounced around a little bit. I went from Dota, went to Fortnite, and transition there was stark. It was in college. I was playing college basketball at the time, and one of my teammates was like, hey, so-and-so on campus said that they're better than you at Fortnite. And I didn't play Fortnite at the time, but I had a very delicate ego. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So I started playing Fortnite ironically, and I was like, wait, this is kind of really fun. So I got hooked. I started streaming Fortnite more, and people from my basketball team would tune in. And some friends tuned in, and that was the first time where I started to get consistently people that were like outside of my friend group that were like, oh, hey, you're pretty good at this game. So I streamed Fortnite for a few years and was always smaller, mixed in some other games, WoW Classic when that happened, and always had a very small following. Then after Fortnite, I got into New World, and New World was the first MMO that I had streamed as my main MMO. When I went into WoW, it was always kind of like casual mix-ins here and there. And when I started streaming New World, it was really that first level of interaction with a community where it was like, I love being able to talk to people. I love being able to share gameplay knowledge that I've gathered across the years. And so MMOs were that perfect opportunity, especially something community-based. So with New World, I stayed there from its near 1 million concurrent player peak all the way down to sub 2,000, all the way through every single relaunch, all the way through everybody leaving, losing faith in the game. And I was always like, we're almost there. We are almost there. It's just a couple patches away, guys. Just believe. And so, you know, I had that level of positivity, and I always tried to carry that and kind of like help people enjoy the game despite it being in a bad spot. And Planadorf's looking at me funny.
Planadorf looks at everybody funny, to be honest. I heard he likes starting fights and then blaming other people.
Well, if he hits me right now, I'm doomed. Just watching the fights with Mr. Dwarf. This is so cute. So with New World, I was always like in a spot where hardcore's getting lit. Can't go, I'll turn it off. I'm sorry. Can't go yelled at me for my music. So with New World, I was always kind of like trying to hold out hope that we would see some change and some form of like update. But across the board, it was always just this neglect to the core gameplay loop and the things that were actually important. And the changes that we were seeing were superficial and just not very impactful to the things that were bothering the player base. So I tried to voice my opinion to whoever I could there, and it wasn't heard. So I was kind of like begrudgingly in New World because I had established myself as a full-time streamer. When I was going live in my time slot, I was typically number 1 to number 3 in the directory, and I was pretty comfortable, and I built up my entire community in there. So I was still trying to hold out, but I was in the spot of like, man, I wish I had less riding on this so I could just go elsewhere. And so
how did you come to find yourself being murdered by Steven exactly?
That was a day. So I've been killed by Steven 4 times.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he hasn't come to see me in a little bit. The first time I ran into him was early January, and that was when I got the snores. So I was farming Oakenbane with my group of friends that I came over to the game with, and he just kind of like descends down and he mass nukes all of the mobs around us. And it was my first time seeing him. And again, coming from New World, like I wasn't used to developers or anybody caring about the game or the community. Sorry, New World. Actually, no, I'm not. But across the board.
Sorry.
I was so impressed that Steven was there that I was like, wait, can we like go outside and talk for a minute and hang out? And so
That's awesome.
he like flies outside. My entire group's there, and we're all just sitting outside of Oakenbane, like talking to him, having a good time. And he tells me to check my inventory, and that's the Snorse. It was unfinished at the time. It was 90% move speed. You could outrun it on foot. Its texture was its saddle was untextured, so it was just like a white saddle. But I loved it, and I rode it everywhere. People came in and they were like, "Why don't you have a faster mount?" And it was my Snorse. I was just riding the Snorse
because it was a Steven gifted Snorse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
No death that time. That was the only time that I have run into Steven without dying. So
Okay.
it's the only time I came out alive. Past that, I was doing Carfin Farm one day, going up to 4th floor, and there was an unfinished texture where it was kind of like, it looked like a light in one of the corners. And so chat tells me to go report it. And I go line up to report the missing texture. As I bring up my menu, I go into a load screen, and I'm like, okay, weird. I load in top floor of Carfin, like up on the roof. And I'm like, something's off here.
They set you up.
Exactly.
Something's off here.
So I'm like, I don't know if I activated something, or if there's supposed to be a fight up here or what, but something seems fishy. And so I go outside and I'm exploring, and around one of the corners, the Ancient One comes walking around, all level 50 raid boss of him, lightning and all. And I say, oh no, I'm doomed.
Oh no.
And so I wasn't sure at first if it was an actual mob or what was going on.
Like a monster coin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. So
that's awesome.
I get on my Snorse, and I'm trying to kind of like outrun it as much as I can. And I get to a spot where I can put something, in between the raid boss and myself. And so I do that, and I go left, and it matches my movement. And I go to kind of juke, and then the Ancient One jukes. And I start panicking. At that moment, I was like, I'm not making it out of this. So
Dead by daylight after the creation.
Exactly. So I sprint, and finally I'm like, all right, I'll kneel. And it goes into this RP about how, he's heard that I wanted to go into the deserts and check out the desert.
Oh.
Because I hadn't gone to the desert, because it would have actually been like an hour and a half on the old Snorse.
Yeah.
And so I told him, yeah, I would love to, but my Snorse is extremely slow. And so he's like, oh, well, I have a better steed for you, a faster steed to get you into the desert. And that was how I got my flail runner. And that was before like Journeyman Animal Husbandry or anything was out. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So I get up on my flail runner, and I was zooming around the top floor. And then it hits me, and I'm like, how do I get down from here? So I go back, and Steven comes back on the Ancient One. And he's like, oh, I'll help you down. Just wait a second. And I'm like, oh, cool. I dismount, and I'm here, and the flail runner's here. The lightning bolt comes down here and gets us both.
No. Oh no.
Both me and my mount. So we have now this tradition of every time that he's seen me, it's like I and my mount both have to die. There need to be.
Oh no.
So
must be balance in the force.
Exactly.
Yes.
He giveth and he taketh away.
Yeah.
And so we had another interaction with
like
the
a true cleric.
The spear.
The
The
spear.
spear.
One that we heard for sure. That's where I think I was watching Steven, and he murdered somebody. I was like, he just murdered somebody with a spear. And you're like, yeah, hi, that's me.
Yeah.
Check this out. This is a spear. I wonder how much damage it can do. Poke.
Oh no.
That was the third run in. And he was live streaming at that point, and I was just running through to the desert trying to farm. And this was probably like 2 weeks after the run in where he smited me. And so I come across him, and I'm on my flail runner, and I just see him floating as I turn around a corner. And you ever just walk into a situation and your stomach sinks because you know it's all about to go downhill? So I see him, and I type in area chat. And I go, please, man, I'm just trying to go farm. So he ends up going, oh, hey, it's Dusty. And then he gets on his Snorse. I get on my Snorse. We end up going to the desert. And he takes some advice from chat to preview the spear. And I fulfilled my tankly duty of tanking one hit. It was just
You took
through
that
my
hit
block.
very like gracefully though.
I tried my best. And so through my
Gloriously.
block, he one-shots me. I don't know if he forgot that he had God mode on or not. I get revived. There's a wolf hitting his Snorse. I try to save his Snorse. He comes over trying to hit the wolf. I killed the wolf. He missed the wolf, killed me again. 2 consecutive deaths. He's corrupted at this point. He's flying around. He's just losing it. I'm losing it. But
oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's funny.
That was the infamous spear.
That was the infamous spear, and now we know.
Yep.
And now, if you are ever around Dusty and Steven happens to come around, just be prepared to maybe need to help Dusty with life again.
Yeah, a res is always welcome in those moments. He caught me in the desert after that once. Ducks started spawning around me. I ended up smited again. I got a mount that time though. That's how I got my halberdier. So that was cool.
Yeah.
He giveth and he taketh away across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
So I was just curious because we're going to be talking about some upcoming changes. What exactly is your playstyle within Ashes? Like there's so many things you can do. You can focus on artisanships, PvP as you are currently watching on your stream, the 8v8 over on Vyra, and there's just a variety of things to partake in. So what are the things that kind of speak to you?
Definitely. So I'm kind of a peculiar gamer in the sense that I've played so many hours of games my entire life with a mix of like MOBAs, shooters, MMOs of PvE and PvX emphasis. So I'm really a player that if a system is good within a game, I really enjoy it. In WoW, for example, I focused on PvE because the entire dungeon and raid system was extremely fun as a tank. In New World, their PvE system wasn't as well developed. So I really focused on their PvP side of things. And I did thousands of wars over in New World. So I actually played with Envious in their New World chapter, warring for them for a little bit when they were there. So for me, it's like if a system is fun, I will play it. If a system is well implemented into the gameplay loop, I will participate in it. So the first 3 hours of my stream today, I was actually just hitting trees, even around the server uptime. So everything within Ashes has a certain level of appeal to me. And my primary focus is going to be on launch, building a community that can scale up and have a presence on the server in a PvX way. But for right now, through playtesting, I'm trying to become super familiar with the systems as a whole. And I've actually been putting an emphasis lately on the gathering crafting loop because that's such a controllable way to get that high rarity output, even for, a PvP or PvE focus.
Right.
So yeah, I've been trying to really just embrace all of what Ashes has to offer, especially in testing, where everything kind of, in a sense, is all for naught. Your character goes away. So instead of focusing on like my core gameplay loop, so to say, I've been really trying to break out of my comfort zone and see how I can complement my gameplay loop with, more of that complementary system that Ashes provides.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that lends something to every other system. And all the crafting stuff especially ties together. Did you see the artisan mapping and such?
I did, yes.
I think that is someone from the Federation put together and put out there.
Oh, yes. So there has been a lot that goes into not only like the artisan mapping and everything like that, but like node planning relating to artisan development. Like all of the systems within Ashes have been phenomenal for me so far.
Yeah. I think that I like how in-depth the artisan systems go, and I was only recently reminded how World of Warcraft's artisan systems were, and I was like, oh right, very different, got it.
Yeah, it seems so straightforward with WoW, where you just kind of hit a skill threshold, learn recipes, and that's one thing that I always try to tell PvE based players and crafting based players that are coming into the chat. It's like, even if that is your focus, you still have that level of, if you're a crafter, you want to PvE and complete that hardest PvE content in a reasonable time frame, so you can farm up your recipes and output the good that you want to while it's still relevant. And if you fall past, you know, the point of progression with that, then you won't be able to profit as much. And there are just so many motivations throughout Ashes to participate in pretty much every aspect of the game. You can avoid it as much as you want to in a certain aspect, but the opportunity is always there, so it's really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you look at Befallen Forge, which Vertec is finding out for his ult, there's the gear for artisans that drop in there, and so that makes it even more important. I love that there's these ties across the board within the different systems. Obviously, crafting helps you with PvP and PvE, but it's really nice to see something artisan related dropping in PvE systems.
Yeah,
within the forge, you also have if Vertec likes the gear that drops from there, you also have the actual like crafting bench that is in Forge Lord Zamar's room in the back. So if you're ever able to full clear that, you get access to that.
Oh, like down at the bottom. Yeah. I just haven't had a character that can make use of them yet, so I just kind of walk up to them and go, "Hey, how's it going, buddy?" Give it a smack with my sword.
I spent all of last night wiping to Zammer to end stream, so that was good. I won't be going back to that room for a little bit. So if you guys need anything, I'm not the one to ask.
Got it. Well, you're over on Vyra, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll probably not be visiting Vyra on purpose unless it's specifically with a low-level character that we just created to go check out something like that 8v8 tournament.
That bad.
You say it's not. So how many journeyman crafting stations you got set up over there?
Enough.
How many wars are declared on a daily basis? I'm curious.
The wars have calmed down since the cooldown, in all fairness. And I would be one to say that in a PvX game, I think it can be said that wars are an indicator of health to a certain extent. It is.
I like the qualifier there to a certain extent. I like that qualifier. I mean,
everything has its limits.
I just gotta say, at least there won't be DPS meters, or else it would be toxic. I'm sure, right?
Oh my goodness!
There's not gonna be any toxicity.
DPS meters.
Somebody, Mr. Nootastic says, "Dusty, stop lying. Vyra is trash right now." And then your mom, Moist Socks, says, "Calm down. I got ducked twice yesterday."
It's really not that bad.
Have you spent any time on Lyneth?
I've watched Lyneth from afar. I rolled on Vyra, kind of like going in blind when I first came over. It ended up staying because my friends had rolled at that point. And so when I watched more of like the big Lyneth battles and everything, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the Lyneth Caravan Treaty Day hit. And I was like, whew, man, that'd be nice someday.
Yeah.
And I started like, it's kind of like that Squidward looking out the window level of like, I wish I was there. So there's this like pipe dream for me, where it's like I'm motivating myself with Vyra to try to have even some portion of that available over here at some point. In worst case scenario, a month and a half, I'm hitting the escape shuttle.
Very
so
fair.
I'm just saying, for a social experiment at some time, you should hop on over to Lyneth and make a character.
How about this? We should both swap. Like, you make a character on Lyneth, we'll make a character on Vyra. We'll compare notes afterwards.
We could do that. The true social experiment. I'll bring the cats.
At the end of the month, I have a feeling it's going to end up being me and Chibi with our hair in like ratted nest and like bags under our eyes, and Dusty's going to be like, "I'm rich. This is amazing."
I have 16 gold right now, and I'm terrified to do a caravan. So if that changes on Lyneth, then I mean, there's always potential.
Interesting. Grumpy Dog says Lyneth is annoying because everyone is hostile and is kill on sight unless you pay them. No, not on Lyneth.
Lyneth?
It's absolutely the opposite. There's a lot of people a lot of our friends recently came over to Lyneth, and they're like, people were healing me and I was just a random like person running past them, and they weren't attacking me when I was grabbing herbs and things like that.
I think they might be trolling. I'm just saying, we had a friend shift over from Vyra over to Lyneth, and one of the comments that sticks with me to this day, he goes, "Man, I'm level 10 and nobody has killed me yet. This is insane."
Yeah. It was really funny to just hear the response from him on that. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I just got lucky and kind of had a bubble around me or something, but I personally didn't run into too much of the like random forced open world. The big kind of like intrusive area that I ran into on Virus specifically, I think is more of a short-term problem anyways. And honestly, for anybody that can see my screen right now, this is kind of the problem. So right now, where there are only 8 ownable nodes, it's such a small area. Like every mayor is getting a flyer, and there are so few options to actually spread out and avoid like the so-called hotspots of the server. You kind of get thrown into the thick of everything regardless. And I think as the map continues to expand, even with the next couple of biome expansions month to month, we'll probably find ourselves in a spot where it's like, if you are a player who doesn't want that intrusive node war, you kind of have the option to go to a less populated, less developed area and have that kind of like inconvenience of having to travel into the city, bring your stuff into the city, but the convenience of not having those disruptions to your gameplay. And I do like that on an active server, you will have those true hotbeds of, you know, constant wars going out on your higher level areas for the people who do want that. And while it is kind of invasive right now to have 8 flyers over the entire map, once we get into launch and it's only Metropolis mayors that have flyers, it's going to be a lot less invasive.
Going to have like 20 over the size of the entire, like both continents, the ocean and everything. Like,
and that's like
20 flying around.
And that's once drops are factored in as well. And those have to be like farmed up, raised through animal husbandry. And then those are finite too. You've got your Metropolis mayors, you've got your guild owners, your guild castle owners, and then you've got your drops. And it's going to be a lot less intrusive, not only in like the node versus node system, because you'll have options of like, I opt into this, you know, regularly siege node for the convenience of all of these crafting benches and all of the, you know, player markets in the city and things like that, knowing that it will come with us being sieged, us maybe losing a percentage of storage mats, stuff like that. Or you can go out into the willy wax, have less development, but also less intrusive gameplay. And I do like that. It'll be good both ways.
How wild do you think it's going to be if you end up on a server that just none of this area here gets developed over tier 3? For like 3 years in, like all this Riverlands and desert and this area that people are getting used to right now, what if it just doesn't get used in whatever server you land on? And like 4 years in, they haven't gotten past like tier 2 or 3 on any of these nodes because they just don't care about it. But I mean, this is the stuff I wanted to see grow.
That's going to be like one of the cool aspects of the game, in my opinion, is all of those social actions, all of the ways to incentivize somebody to come to your node, your area. And even in terms of like a smaller node, right? You could potentially have, say, an economic node that's not going to have that mass influence guild on it, but perhaps like one very large buyer, merchant, something like that. You could attract people in with the pacifism of the node, and you could become known as like a trade metropolis. I don't think every metropolis is necessarily going to be this like brute force, you know, #1 army in the world. I think we will see those metropolis developments with many different like types of nodes, not only in terms of like the actual node type, but in terms of their function. And if you have a trade center, then that might be safe on the map.
You know what though that might turn into though? A trade center economic node that doesn't focus anything really on PvP. Doesn't that look like a loot boss? Doesn't that look like a pinata sitting there? Ready to be exploded, and all the storage banks of all the money and relics and all the good stuff they found just kind of plops onto the ground for the military node to swoop up.
That's where that kind of like social level of implication comes in. If you have a server that has, you know, say 3 of your 4 remaining metropolises in a protection pact with that economic hub or like the server health, then you may be able to enforce that level of protection. But there is always that element of you invest in something, and the more you invest in it, whether it's a guild, whether it's a node, whether it's an alliance, the more you invest, the more it can blow up. And when it blows up, the more cinematic it is. So I like that aspect of it too.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of like the idea of there being a trade hub as like it's like kind of in a central area, maybe spanning across a little bit of both continents. Because then if it's an economic node and it gets up to Metropolis and it spans both continents, I mean, the auction house is going to spread across its entire ZOI.
Right.
So you could actually have East continent trade with the West continent as long as nobody messes with that node.
And providing it's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's see, that also creates more of a target for something like a military node that wants to own the trade routes across the water. So it's gonna be a big thing. Like, oof.
Yeah, with naval combat coming in as well.
The politics.
I see harbor nodes having like so much validity, and also multiple kind of harbor nodes on those coastlines working together to almost establish a safe route where they escort their caravans halfway, meet up with the other node, and they kind of like run this route or this channel a few hours a day to stimulate caravans going one place to the other. And naturally through that, like we mentioned before, the pinata waiting to blow up, all of that loot there. If there's a safe route that's being protected, that only incentivizes a larger group to come in and try to hit that safe route, because there's that massive level of reward if you can. So even with that, the more establishment you have, the more kind of like momentum you have in that regard, the more risk there is. And that's honestly, in my opinion, one of my favorite things about Ashes, with those core tenants being risk reward involved.
Yeah. And speaking of risk and reward, it's really interesting to consider it where, for example, I'm actually in chat with one of your guys, Grumpy, and we're talking about our experiences with Lineth and how he was trying to level against some griffins and was getting attacked by a higher level character. But I know that there's conversations around, like, we had it on our server on Lineth where we were trying to get some of the raptors kind of early on in phase 2, and pirates were there and they had that whole thing on lockdown. We were trying really hard to fight against them just to get like one little raptor.
Right.
And they were literally going corrupt over it. But we have our friends on your server who were saying there are all-out wars almost happening over the raptors just to get the skins. And it's really interesting because that's that player friction of like, do I want to engage in PvP? Is it worth engaging in PvP for the item? Or do I want to try to come back when maybe they aren't looking or aren't there? Of course, with the sweatier people, they're there all the time, I found. But it's just one of those things. It's really interesting because you can pick and choose when you engage right now. I really like it where, if you flag up and you try to attack me and I don't attack you back, you could go corrupt if you kill me, or if you end up using a mob to try to kill me off, then, there's that. But I like that there's a lot of player agency within this, and it sounds like they're trying to add more risk and reward with these veins that they were talking about in their most recent dev stream.
Absolutely.
Where like there's like the copper vein or whatever that might pop up, and there's a server wide event notice, and now you have to kind of go through and hope to get as much as you possibly can before it runs out, or fight trying to get it.
Yeah, definitely. Player friction around gathering spots between those and like the new surveying changes that they're adding in with the ability to like detect what's coming ahead of time. I think those not only bring in like that large group kind of like surveying a lot, but if you're a solo player who's just trying to kind of like cut their stake out for themselves, you no longer have to spend your time as a solo going tree to tree, area to area, just hoping that you hit lotto somewhere. You can drop a survey beacon. You can examine that large area that you wouldn't be able to cover. And I think it also opens it up for more like solo and small scale play to actually have a good chance to secure themselves some good gains through gathering. So all of the changes seem really great so far. And I also look forward to the friction of like, you and I both know, because we surveyed an area, that these high value spawns are coming up in an hour and a half. So we both have that info, but we don't know that each other has that info. So I show up.
You see the beacon.
Exactly. And if we come through at different times, I show up 15 minutes before the spawn. I look over there and I see you and I'm like, oh no, now I need my guild over here. And then you have that entire kind of standoff while you wait for the node, where more and more people start to show up before those spawns. And out of nowhere, you have this massive area of player friction, wars breaking out, PvP breaking out. negotiations. Then you have that one person with their pickaxe just hitting everything and trying to get out for themselves. So I
Right.
really look forward to those moments of like, it's just chaos breaking out over a high value area.
Right.
Yeah. And hey there, by the way, welcome in, Slurp. How you doing today?
Hello. Yes, I actually wanted to add this out. So for those of you that haven't heard yet, what Dusty and I were kind of just referring to a little bit was Intrepid just recently added in that they're going to be redoing the entire like way that the artisan rarity system is, and it's going to be, honestly, in my opinion, I think this is a good change. I still have a lot of questions on how exactly it's going to work, but I can't wait until like end of April, beginning of May, when this is mostly integrated, to see how it feels. And it's kind of interesting because somebody asked me how would I do it if I were to design the way that a herb or something would come back after harvesting it. And the way that they implemented it, that area of effect where if you plant it in spot 1, it could regrow like 3 feet to the left, for example. And I liked that there's this area idea where anywhere in that area it could come back, not just directly there, so you can log out, log back in, hit the same tree. It's the same rarity, etc. I would have been fine even with static nodes if the rarity wasn't static, but this is, to me, is just like the best of both worlds, honestly. What are your thoughts on that addition or adjustment in particular?
I hope that the like cluster is a large area throughout the node. So even if you know kind of like roughly where you are going to see a spawn, it's never really in that same spot. It's never really in that same area. So it's not even a matter of like, oh, I roughly got this here. It could go anywhere within that node. That would be like my ideal, not even necessarily in the node, but like just having that variability in the spawn location itself to the point where it's, you know, an adventure to find that every time. And I think with them also weighting spawns into those logical areas, like the minerals in caves, like your willow near riverbanks, and having like that higher chance for a willow to spawn near a riverbank, but not every willow spawning near the riverbank, that's going to give such a good mix of adventure across the board. And I'm really excited for the variance that brings.
Yeah, me too. Very much so.
The way I almost envision it myself is like they're going to have the map layer, and then they're just going to take a paintbrush with like, say, copper, for instance, and they're going to say, all right, so right down this riverbed, because the water is constantly eroding that and earth is just kind of filling in and exposing rocks and all that. So right down here, this far from the water's edge, there could be some copper, and then right into this little valley over here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, there's a cave. Let's make this a double layer.
Cheers.
Oh, hey there. Nice. Thanks
Welcome
for raiding in.
Nice. Thanks for the raid.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Thanks for bringing your friends. What'd you guys do over there? What'd you talk about? Anything super exciting?
We are currently talking with DustyWhy, and he was gracious enough to show us how to do the stream together. Well, that allows us to work within our setups. That's really, really cool. But we're talking about the artisan changes currently. And you spent 6 hours gathering.
Hey,
Nice.
that's what we're talking about right now, is gathering.
Perfect timing, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it going. And honestly, if you think about it, if they spend some time painting some other areas that aren't so obvious and extending it out just right into areas that have like higher tree cover or something, but it's not quite like a cave or riverbed or like rock's edge, then in theory somebody could run over through all the rest of the track, and there could be 3 or 4 nodes that pop up and are just sitting there waiting under the cover of trees, like over in a corner somewhere. And if you're not exploring everywhere in that little zone, then you're gonna miss out.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how the rarity changes work on this and how the node veins work. And it does add like a sense of urgency almost to go to the veins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Some stuff from the chat. Feisty Walrus, welcome in, says politics and PvP will be unavoidable in this game. And as a person who'd rather use diplomacy than PvP, I love it. Fantasy politics is so much fun, and I agree. It's part of what makes D&D very fun. You could try and diplomatize your way through a fight with a boss, but maybe not likely to go your way. But hey, it's worth trying, I think. And then Mr. Newtastic says, for me, it'll depend on what they do with the rare gathering tools and gear buffs. Right now, they have rarity stats on them, which is useless. I don't know if it's actually useless, but that's how a lot of us feel. I will just put that out there. And it will be even more so when they make these changes. Love the general concepts they listed so far. And my hope is that the rarity rating on your sickle and your clothing and all that stuff will give you the chance to proc up. And one thing that we have heard within our community is that we are what?
Slurp says it's not, I swear. But I'm not sure what he was saying it's not to.
It's not, I swear. It's not useless, probably.
No.
But one thing that was actually brought up as a suggestion for like, not really, I guess kind of quality of life, but more like a communications thing. Like Dusty, when you do PvP or when you're doing PvE, you see that larger number that kind of says, hey, you just got a crit in a way, right? So what she would like to see is some sort of proc notification when your rarity procs up your gathering.
Okay. Yeah,
in your
that
log
could be cool.
or yeah,
and almost like a status effect, like rarity up effect, if you actually do see kind of like a rarity shift from that specifically.
Yeah,
rarity systems can work quite a few different ways within games, and from what I've heard so far through Ashes, I'm not an expert on like all of how their rarity systems work and everything and how it's influenced, but you are able to currently like push a green up to a blue with enough rarity, so that actual like rarity proc up could be a very, very, very nice little like notification there. Yeah,
I agree. And one of my favorite things that is changing, besides how the rarity is working, because that I'm already a big fan of. I think that's huge. I think a lot of people are eager to test this. But my favorite thing is making multiple types of tools for yourself and being able to change them out through equipping them versus it replacing your current tool.
New World had in itself an entire market that was based around that tool system. So they actually mentioned in the upcoming changes that we'll be able to finally trade those tools, and that's gonna create a lot. New World actually had like different rarity tools as well throughout it that provided different bonuses and even different perks that were like, you have a chance from trees to extract this additional material. And so what we could see, depending on how far they decide to evolve with that, is you had specific people on servers that were bag people. So a guy named Gochi, he had his Gochi brand bags that were the finest designer bags on our server. You had people that were making mining picks. You had people that were making logging axes. And you had just all of those kind of like artisan suppliers within your crafters. So it was like the people who were mining the gold and quite literally those who supplied the pickaxes. And so it's going to be really cool to see that system gain more depth and just add another economic element to the game in terms of the player to player.
Yeah. Ooh, Quinn from your chat says, imagine renting your gathering tools out. Okay, hold up real quick. I don't know if this is still going to be a thing, and I'm not asking Slurp to confirm or not to confirm, but on the wiki, if he wants to, I'm welcoming of it. But on the wiki, it says that the end game, the end goal of the tool system is for those to break, not be repairable. So you'll have to make another one once you go through all of its durability. What are your thoughts on that? Because like, I don't know if I would ever rent out my tools. For one, I don't know if they're going to be able to be tradable, but what are your thoughts?
I don't know in an MMO if I rented anything out, if I would ever get it back. I'm not gonna lie. I still to this day both owe people and have money owed to me in New World and WoW, and I don't even have a WoW sub anymore, so they're never getting paid back. So I would be terrified. Like I'm currently actually on a 5-day punishment with chat where I can't use a mount. So everybody was like, Dusty, let me hold the snore so you'll get it back. And I'm like, man, all you have to do is stop showing up to my stream and join a different guild and I don't get my snores back. So I don't know if I can do that. I would be terrified. In terms of like the tools breaking part though, I think that could also introduce a very cool kind of like perk system within it, including something that's like a self durability repair, where if you don't bring it all the way down to 0, you could have a slow tick up. But if you're not paying attention, and even if you have that self durability repair, you hit it down to 0. Oh no, my axe is gone. So if you have that level of awareness, you could potentially have that like tick back up on your repair that would allow you to farm a certain amount without worrying about that. I think it could be a really cool system that opens up a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And it also, sorry, Vertek, I'll let you answer, but I think it also like adds more purpose for it, because right now the biggest complaint I've heard with mayors putting up these tools for their like apprentice and journeyman buildings is that people do it once and they don't do it again after that.
Right. Yeah, we currently, I actually think it's current. I don't think we can make journeyman axes anymore over on Vira. Funny you mentioned those journeyman tables a little earlier. So weird coincidence. So yeah, that's, I feel like that's also something that relates to kind of like node scarcity though, where you do have an actual definitive need for each of those plots at the moment. And with already having one plot being used for a statue and other things weighing in on kind of like, you know, server progression as a whole through different clashes or whatever you may have. I think as you have more nodes throughout and kind of like more places for there to be carryover, you won't see as much of that just like one and done progression. At least I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of things breaking, but I like the idea of things breaking because you didn't take care of them. Like just like in real life, let's say you take your car and you don't fix it until it's broken down, and then you take it to the mechanic. You're basically buying a new car by getting it fixed at that point. Yeah. Like, dude, I don't know why you didn't change your oil. The engine is now locked, frozen up. You didn't change your tires, you didn't rotate them, you didn't replace your brakes. Like everything is dead on this car. You may as well just buy a new one, or you can buy a new one and a half and I'll repair the one you have right now. Then the same thing for items in a game. Like as soon as you come back to town, you repair, you go from 90% back up to 100. And so your durability stays at the 100%. Like whatever the durability points it has, it stays there. But if you drop it down to 50%, it's gonna have a certain amount of percentage chance to drop and lose a permanent durability point, and on. But if you let it get down to 100%, like you were saying, Dusty, you let it get that bad. Like,
I'm also excited for repair kits.
You broke that item. What's that?
I'm excited for repair kits in regard to that too. Repair kits will add a lot to that kind of like dynamic out and about maintaining your gear. And if you're going like on a really deep dungeon delve, or you're going on a really big crafting gathering binge, like you'll want to have proper bags, proper repair kits, and it's going to be that element, whether you're just going out crafting, going out dungeoning, whatever it may be. You've got to prepare for that journey. And there's going to be that, all right, everybody got your consumes, you got your repair kits, like, oh, you forgot your repair kits again. Well, I'm not giving you repair kits this time because you forgot them last time as well. So I'm really excited for all of that.
I remember, I think Steven answered that question at some point, talking about like repair kits. Let me see here. I think there was something about that at some point, but it was maybe only the artisan who could create the repair kit, or could actually repair that kind of armor to be able to use the repair kit. So I think you're gonna have like traveling repair people.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
It's gonna be, hey, looking for an armor smith in Carfin. I need 3 pieces of gear repaired. I'm at like 10% durability.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you wonder if it's going to be a trade UI where it's like almost like World of Warcraft, where you put it in a cannot be traded part.
Oh yeah, drop the piece in. Yeah, the repair from there.
So it's like, do you repair it in the trade window, or do I have to physically give you? I have a Starbucks cup, but
sorry, I cheers with the wrong thing. We do fireball potions here. Cheers.
So do you think that it'll be that like can't be traded window, or do you think it'll be that element of like I have to physically give you the item and then trust you to give it back?
I would like to see a window. I would like to see a window kind of like the enchanting window in WoW, where you can like put your item in there. They don't take it. They can just like hover over it and enchant it. I would like to see something like that, but with like, you know, fixing it kind of like a whetstone. But thank you, Hoofsy, so much for those gifts. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Very appreciated. Yes.
Real quick, them fireball potions got me yesterday. No. Wait, what? What don't I know? Also, your chat is saying they're behaving really well and not giving you cat ears, and I haven't figured out how to give you cat ears yet.
I'm ignoring them for right now. This is my like 2 hours of peace. It's like I'm here 10 hours a day, and I feel like a dad that's just constantly, the kids are like, Dusty, Dusty, Dusty. And like it's been peaceful here. It's like I'm not looking left. That's my chat. I think Drew, one of my good friends, might have just redeemed the cat ears. I think I might be in trouble.
That's okay. You can do it. It's fine. We welcome it here. I don't have anything nifty to put on, or I totally would have.
Everybody needs a good set of cat ears. So one thing that I'm going to try to get Intrepid to actually work in long term is maybe some official Intrepid branded cat ears. I think it's like the equivalent of having a Nike headband for an Ashes player. And really, we could make it not only like a fashion thing, but just a true Ashes culture state. I hope we don't. I hope.
I mean,
so
I'm just saying Tolnar are going to be a thing. Yeah, I get Tolnar ears. There's going to be Tolnar helmets, I'm pretty sure. With little ear cutouts inside game. Yeah.
Yeah, Tolnar ears.
I don't know why I give my chat this much power.
That's okay. It's always amusing when we I asked if they're not entertained in this. They said we are, so good. I think we got it.
They're probably loving hearing someone other than me yap for the entire 10 hours. They're just like, this is a new friendly voice. It's pleasant. It's not Dusty just manically rambling. This is great.
Little change in audio tone. Right.
Dusty Cat Tolnar confirmed. Yes, agreed. And hoodies with the what is that? Dusty Phoenix. Okay.
Oh, the Dusty Phoenix is a true work of art. It took me longer than I would like to admit to draw that, but yeah, my goal is if every if I ever get accepted into their content creator program and each content creator gets one wish, I just want a hoodie with that embroidered on it. That's my one wish.
I love it. Quinn actually had a great point from your chat. It says, I'd just like to make tools break into 50% of the mats. And I really like that, actually. Oh, thank you for making it larger. I can actually see it now. That's awesome. But I actually agree with that. I think that'd be really cool, because then you're getting a little bit of your materials back, because it's not like if something breaks, it's dead forever and you get nothing back of it. In real life, if my cup breaks, I've got most of my cups still available. Parts of it may not work very well, but at least I could work something together to make a new one.
And depending on the cup that breaks, there's also the art of, I forget what it is, with like painting it back together with like the gold adhesive.
The Japanese, I think it's Japanese technique.
I think it is too. But yeah, they take like the porcelain cups and such, and they paint it back together with adhesive. And
they
you
use
just
like
see golden cracks and everything.
Something, yeah. Oh, thank you. Cheers. Another fireball. Hoofsy gave
I'm gonna have another IOU on that one. I still got an empty potion. This potion's gone.
Oh no, wait, more. Oh boy, okay.
Holy cow.
In addition to that, while the fireball potion's being consumed and the buffs are going out. Yeah. I need myself a fireball potion, but we were discussing item bloat actually relatively recently, where there is no item degradation to the point where things break and they're finite, and there's also no bind on equip, bind on pickup, as you have progression that just outpaces items, and you have items that are infinitely dropping into the economy. You'll eventually have a level of item bloat where it's just like there is too darn much here. And so New World and certain other games have had, a viable salvage mechanic where you're able to at least pull some base materials out of that salvaged good. And you have a chance to almost have, like in New World, it's a perfect salvage where you can get additional higher rarity materials from that. So maybe from a common, you could see a chance to get like an uncommon plank, some small benefit there. So I'd almost like to see, in addition to item degradation, a form of scarcity and almost like a sink for the items that are existing within the economy. So there's not just this massive bloat of everything once you surpass that progression point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's the item bloat where, you know, your bags are just constantly full and I don't know what to do with them because I'm trying to hoard them all. But then there's the different rarity or resources and rarities of those resources across the different terrains. You've got your Sand Squall Desert resources, you got your Riverlands resources, you got the Tropics resources coming soon. And one thing I think that I love and I can't wait to see how exactly it works is the exchange out of those resources for certain recipes. And I think that might help with some of the bloating too.
Definitely. I think bloat is probably one of my larger concerns in any game, between item bloat, power creep, anything like that. So providing there are good exchanges and like good sinks within the economy, I do think you have, you know, certain conversions that can be conducive to getting bloated items out, getting less bloated items in. And within that, you just kind of have to maintain exclusivity with that too. You don't want to necessarily take things that are super exclusive, hard to farm, make them too readily available through bloat items. So it's one of the many reasons I don't envy why I don't envy like game developers. They have a lot of things to keep in mind with every one of their decisions. So I definitely don't envy it, but I can definitely yap about my end of it much easier.
Right.
Yeah, because the only alternative really to getting rid of like a bloated collection of items that just don't disintegrate, they don't get sold, they don't get broken, they don't whatever, is to make them harder to craft and harder to find, and that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would like to maybe see is a bigger stack size in the banks, because I can stack up to 60 with my journeyman, I think, or no, apprentice, and then I think 80 or so with the journeyman bags. But my bank size is only 20. It'd be really, really nice to see a bigger stack size in the bank for flowers, so that way I have more room for other things I might want to put in there besides just all of flowers. But I think part of that might also be with attributing a certain type of storage type to those things, kind of like bags, but I just don't think that might be working very well at the moment.
Yeah, you're able to kind of like switch your bank tab over to that specialty like a bag, but it shrinks your bank tab currently and doesn't give the stacking like you mentioned. So if that functionality does come about, I feel like you'll be able to use, you know, Winstead, for example, on Vyra has a journeyman lumber milling station. So you could switch over your Winstead storages to wood, do all of your lumberjacking, lumber milling out of Winstead, and actually have that kind of like scaling storage as well. It's something that is definitely rough right now, to the point where having journeyman kind of like lumbering bags, you have stacks of 82. If you want to drop that one stack of 82 into your bank, you're instantly filling up a significant portion of your storage. So I definitely hope that they get those in line soon. And I think that they could even go the route of, you know, each of those specialty tabs, they could even do a gold sync where you have to pay money to upgrade it to the next tier, so to say, from like novice, apprentice, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of systems that they could do with those bank tabs to kind of keep syncs going in, keep implementing them, keep giving them viability. But yeah, right now it kind of feels bad the second you switch one over.
Yeah, I agree. Related to this, and Vertec, you and I chatted about this a little bit. This definitely blew up in the the unofficial content creator Discord that Stikeno started. But so the interview with Steven and Lazy Peon, Steven mentioned that as of right now, they are focusing on the layout options for the different types of nodes for stability reasons, because the layout allows them to have kind of a procedurally placed location for the flag when doing siege. What's that called? Not summoning, not casting. What's the word with the flag? Channeling. Thank you. When you do the siege channeling for the flag. And a lot of that sparked a lot of conversation around, you know, does this mean that they're not going to be modular anymore? They're not going to build randomly as the node levels so that each one is different. And how does that feel with having a layout applied to a node rather than something that's like procedurally generated? And a lot of the conversations that came up were talking about the pros and cons of procedurally generation, where perhaps maybe the AI that made the procedurally generated layout does something weird, and that's just becomes the easiest to attack and bring down node out of all of them, and therefore giving it an unfair disadvantage against being sieged. What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, that's kind of a bit of a hot topic, but it's more so of a hot topic because it begins the question of, you know, if this is not getting procedurally generated, does this mean other things aren't, or is this just for testing, for stability, etc.?
Right. I think across the board regarding the concern of like certain areas being easier or harder to siege, that's a level of like, you know, the map can impact it, but you can also have strategies that are built around that. So if you have a certain weakness around your town, you could then have a form of emergent gameplay that comes out where that becomes almost a bait spot. So it's like they try to push in through that easy spot. You have your entire army waiting for that easy spot, knowing they'll funnel. The next node siege, it's like, okay, well, do we push through that spot knowing they're going to bait that trap? And then you as a defender aren't even baiting that trap. So then you play around that weakness as a cat and mouse game. And those small strengths, weaknesses, and like differences can determine a node's validity to become a hub, a node's validity to withstand certain types of sieges, certain compositions of sieges, certain attack methods. And I think that adds a lot of levels of emergent gameplay. And you'll also have that level of, wow, I can't believe, you know, this node that is extremely weak to sieges traditionally is pushing all the way up to Metropolis state and like doing well for themselves there. So I'm very excited to see, again, how it kind of continues to evolve off of that. I think advantages in certain aspects lead to disadvantages in other aspects, like I mentioned with the weak spots. And it's really early on before, you know, a lot of the player base is able to get their hands on it for a lot of that emergent gameplay with the system. So I think we'll just continue to see more come out as reactions to what's strong, what's weak, and you'll see counterplays come out and different strategies developed. And that's just one of the levels where Ashes will keep evolving over time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I could see that. I just know that I personally would be a little bit upset if you know, procedurally generated nodes, especially if it changed and altered the potential setup every time it leveled up a stage, and suddenly hits Metropolis, and the place that it configures a couple of gates and streets to be just basically funnels like 3 gates directly to the flag. Is okay, so I should just probably move my freehold now. Like it immediately leveled up, and there's an absolute, like, there's a target and there's a neon sign showing people how to get to the flag. I'm just gonna move, guys.
Yeah, and I'm sure like certain parameters, I mean, in regard to that, it would be similar to like a time to kill being egregiously fast in like a PvP scenario, right? So if there's any just, you know, sure outliers where it's like, okay, this one is legitimately a straight line with one thing to jump over and then you're at the flag, I'm sure those can be utilized in terms of like we shape this much like their expansions to the desert, where they're like, we procedurally generate this and then sculpt this by hand to make it what we want. I'm sure they'll be able to do that to a level with those node layouts as well. And if something's just egregiously bad, based on what we've seen with Intrepid so far, I'm sure community feedback weighs very heavily with all of their actions.
Oh yeah.
And you know, if everyone's like, oh, this node is just unplayable, then we'll probably see that change. But even in New World, different warring areas, territory to territory, had different map layouts, so different flag locations. And one, for instance, Morningdale, its rightmost point when you were capturing, because you had to capture 3 outside points as an attacker, and then you had to break into the fort, and you had to capture the point inside the fort. And so the rightmost point had this massive body of water that was just half of the point itself, pretty much. And so you couldn't really like get armies through to what was called like the strong side of point, which was the far side of point. And it changed how you played that war entirely. So you would call differently, you would strategize differently. And sometimes your composition would even change just if you were attacking Morningdale. So I'm really, really excited for, again, that variance. And I hope if anything is kind of like too quickly, you know, conquered or too skewed one way or the other, they are able to address it.
I agree. And I think at the end, oh, go ahead, sorry, Ritter.
Well, I was just gonna say that just so we don't get too much deeper in conversation, we got to start wrapping up here soon. We got some plans. Something we're heading out to today.
Ooh, very fun.
On schedule. We got to be on schedule with it. But just a few last thoughts I had on that, and then hand it over to Chibi. But yeah, I see what you're saying there, and I do agree. Like, Intrepid is really good at acting upon feedback that's objectively accurate or objectively like this is something that needs to change. It's where opinions and design concepts come into play. Like, how do they want it to be designed? That's totally different versus how players are reacting like they don't like that design. Well, that's the design. Sorry.
Yeah.
But something that's objectively in need of changing, they're really good at reacting to, getting that knocked out.
Yeah. For me, I think it would be kind of interesting to see the ability for something Vertek mentioned, the mayors being able to choose where they place the flag, if you could, within a node. But at the end of the day, I could see that being a few preemptive placements where you could choose, do you want placement 1 through 4, and then you could choose those so that way it is stable for that layout. But the other thing is also, we need to also consider all of this is still in development. All of this is still testing. There's a lot of things, like including hunting, where you just go up to an animal and you pet it and then it dies. Like, all of this is just placeholder to test the base parts of the system. And the way that those parts are relayed to the user through the UI or through the end part of the system on how that user interacts with that system will change probably a lot, as we're seeing with not only the hunting system coming forward, but also the rarity systems they just announced. So yeah, for me, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be excited for between the rarity changes and sieges coming to live and rogue coming to live at the end of March. But there's a lot of really interesting stuff. But as you mentioned, kind of Dusty at the beginning, that you just gotta hold on till the next patch. Just gotta hold on. There'll be more stuff.
Mm-hmm. Plenty more patches to come in the future too.
Yeah. But we're gonna raid over to Luth Lloyd, because I apologize, Dusty. I didn't realize we were going to do it this way, and we already kind of told him we were going to raid over.
Oh my
yeah, I told him we're going to raid over to him because he's doing the 8v8, and I was like,
I was just
exactly
standing right in front of him, actually.
Yeah.
I was telling him that's exactly during the time of our podcast. I'm sorry, we can't join in and watch or anything, but we're going to raid over. We're going to raid over.
Yes.
Huge. I'll stand beside him so you have the best POV.
There we go. That's perfect. All right. But do you have any final thoughts of our conversation today, or anything that you just kind of want to leave everybody with?
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate you guys having me. It was super fun to come over and yap with you. I think most importantly, it's very pivotal to remember right now. We're in a point where content is going to start coming in very rapidly. So all of the feedback around the new content, whether it's good, bad, the other, it's super important to get back into the team. And if one thing I always tell my chat is, like, if you're seeing Ashes right now, you're seeing it at its worst state. You're going to see within the next few months rapid expansions of the map. A lot of the community pain points that are really plaguing people right now are simply going away as the map continues to expand and systems develop more. And it's important to look at, what we're facing for problems and be like, is this a short-term thing for Alpha 2 Phase 2? Or is this a problem that I see persisting through development of systems? And for me, I look at a lot of those problems and they're just short-term things that go away as systems continue. So I'm super excited for the future, and I hope everybody else is too.
Yeah. And my final thoughts are, I think that the rarity changes coming in will probably affect a lot of the TTK and the way PvP is approached. And I'm really curious to see about it. And thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time to kind of go in and chat about this with you. It's been really awesome having you on.
Of course. You guys have a good night. Enjoy your plans.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. You're always welcome back. If ever there's something coming up on the horizon you think you'd really like to chat about, please do not be shy about tapping us on the shoulder.
Thank you.
Ending the stream with the cheers.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Once more again, Hoovsy, you're fantastic. You're the hero of the stream today. Yeah, at least 24 hours of being considered a superhero, okay?
We love hoofs.
Pepsi is going on our board after this night.
Yeah. Like someone might save a bus full of school children tomorrow, so they might usurp your superhero position. But for 24 hours at least, it's yours. Okay?
Yep.
But everybody, you could have been spending your time anywhere. It is your most valuable commodity. You do not get it back once you've spent it. You do not get change. You do not get to, do a charge back of time. Okay? You spent it here. The tavern truly, truly, truly values it. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And we hope you found it worthwhile.
Thank you so much. And huzzah to Zero.
Huzzah. All right, everyone. Take care. Have yourselves a great day and enjoy your weekend.
Have a good night. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.